This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. The U.S. is sending reinforcements to the waters off North Africa and the effort to cut off Houthi rebels in Yemen from assistance by Iran. The move comes as Iran is once again sounding anything but cooperative in its nuclear negotiations with the West. Correspondent Kevin Corke is at the White House tonight.
The Defense Department confirms the USS Theodore Roosevelt has joined 8 other U.S. warships in the region, spanning the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden, and into the Arabian Sea, on a mission to intercept any Iranian vessels that might be carrying weapons to Houthi rebels who have forced the Yemeni government into exile. Tehran's support of the insurgents comes as the nuclear arms talks continue between the regime and the U.S.-led P5+1 coalition, and amid a steady drumbeat of anti-American rhetoric from Tehran.
Americans, Europeans, and some apple polishers fabricated the myth of nuclear weapons to say that the Islamic Republic was a threat. No, the threat is America itself.
Meanwhile, at the White House, President Obama welcomed to the Oval Office the Crown Prince of the United Arab Emirates to discuss the Iranian negotiations. This as concerns grow in the UAE and elsewhere about Tehran's role in regional instability and its nuclear capability.
The Crown Prince of the UAE and the broader UAE government does have concerns about the ability of Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. And that's why the United States is leading the effort with the international community to prevent Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon.
There is no stipulation that this aggression be halted, whether at the start of the agreement or as a condition for the lifting of sanctions.
The linchpin could be the ability for the U.S. to snap back sanctions on the regime if it fails to live up to the deal.
Our main concern here is making sure that if Iran doesn't abide by its agreement, that we don't have to jump through a whole bunch of hoops in order to reinstate sanctions.
A complication, the president admitted, that's yet to be fully worked out by the talks, an uncertainty that had lawmakers on Capitol Hill spoiling for a fight.
I think Barack Obama's deal is deteriorating before our eyes. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell that a Congress is going to approve this framework the way it's set up.
Also tonight, Brett, Washington Post reporter Jason Rezaian has been charged with espionage by the Iranian government for, among other things, collaborating with hostile governments, allegedly because he's written some pretty tough articles about the ongoing economic crisis in Tehran. Now, Press Secretary Josh Earnest did say today in the briefing the White House has called for his release, but he stopped short of suggesting the administration might make that a condition for lifting sanctions on Tehran. Brett?
Kevin Corke live on the North Lawn. More on all this with the panel. Kevin, thank you. Just 1 week into her official campaign, and Hillary Clinton and her campaign are now trying to deal with a bubbling scandal, one detailed in a new book. Tonight, new accusations that then Secretary of State Clinton engaged in quid pro quo behavior in return for huge donations to the Family Foundation and speaking fees for her former president husband from foreign sources. We have Fox team coverage of the 2016 race this evening. Mike Emanuel with a wrap-up of a busy weekend for Republican hopefuls in New Hampshire. Britt Hume here with what we learned and what we didn't. But we begin with Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry in New Hampshire tonight, where Hillary Clinton is still not facing reporters yet on the controversial issues. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Brett. When trouble or scandal has threatened to derail the political ambitions of both Clintons, Bill and Hillary have both turned here to New Hampshire. And so it began again today.
Hillary Clinton launched week 2 of her presidential campaign with her first official stop in the friendly confines of New Hampshire. Hoping to stick to her middle-class message, just as details leaked from a new book raising more questions about whether she and former President Bill Clinton have enriched themselves with the help of foreign governments.
Those issues are, in my view, distractions from what this campaign should be about.
The new book by author Peter Schweitzer, Clinton Cash, is due out May 5th. But a copy was obtained by the New York Times. The book catalogs the large payments by foreign governments and business people to the Clinton Foundation, as well as to the former president personally through speaking fees. And the book goes a major step further by alleging that as Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton took official actions to benefit those donors.
We're back into the political season, and therefore we will be subjected to all kinds of distraction and attacks, and I'm ready for that. I know that comes, unfortunately, with the territory.
Meanwhile, at the White House, spokesman Josh Earnest was pressed on whether he can categorically deny there were any ethical violations.
I know there's been a lot of accusations made about this, but not a lot of evidence.
This is certainly not the first time the Clintons have sought comfort from New Hampshire. After losing the Iowa caucuses in 2008, Hillary Clinton won New Hampshire in part by blinking back tears as she attacked what she called false hopes being pushed by then-Senator Barack Obama.
I just don't want to see us fall backwards.
In 1992, Bill Clinton bit his lip, felt voters' pain, and declared himself the comeback kid after finishing second in New Hampshire despite a series of personal scandals. And this time, a key Clinton backer here on the ground in New Hampshire claims various controversies, including her email troubles, are just inside baseball.
I think the Republicans are going to be throwing everything they can at Hillary Clinton. They think she's going to win the nomination. So this is going to be a year and a half of constant attacks on Hillary Clinton. It doesn't matter what the issue is.
Note that neither Josh Earnest nor Secretary Clinton, though, directly refuted any of the allegations in the book, though. I just spoke to a senior campaign advisor to Clinton who told me that once this book comes out and the allegations get more specific, they are promising to fight fire with fire. Brett?
Ed Henry live in New Hampshire tonight. Ed, thank you. We've been working on something as well. Please join me Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern for more on the tangled Clinton web. We'll follow the money that's transformed the Clintons from what Hillary called dead broke to a spot among the political super rich. It's a story you don't want to miss. 10 p.m. Eastern this Friday. Hillary Clinton comes to New Hampshire without any serious opposition from other Democrats, at least not yet. In contrast, most of the huge Republican field, or field to be, trolled for votes and momentum last weekend in New Hampshire. Senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel tells us what happened.
At the First in the Nation summit in New Hampshire, 21 Republican potential presidential hopefuls made their pitch to Granite State voters. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker made the case that he appeals to enough Republicans to win.
That means Tea Party to establishment, from social conservative to libertarian. We would all, because what people want more than anything is they don't just want a fighter. They want someone who fights and wins.
A crowded GOP field will require the candidates to find a way to stand out. Yet so far, their sharpest jabs are against the Democrat candidate and her campaign rollout.
I'm starting to worry that when Hillary Clinton travels, there's going to need to be two planes, one for her and her entourage and one for her baggage.
This listening tour is something out of North Korea. Would you like to meet the dear leader and ask him anything you would like? How did she get away with this? I don't know.
As for the Republican race at this early stage, a new CNN ORC international poll reveals former Florida Governor Jeb Bush holds a 5-point lead over Walker, with Marco Rubio making the biggest jump up 4 points from a month ago. On CBS yesterday, Rubio said he didn't believe being gay was a choice and defended traditional marriage.
Well, first, it's not that I'm against gay marriage. I believe the definition of the institution of marriage should be between one man and one woman. States have always regulated marriage, and if a state wants to have a different definition, you should petition the state legislature and have a political debate. I don't think courts should be making that decision, and I don't believe same-sex marriage is a constitutional right.
New Jersey Governor Chris Christie is expected to make a major push to win New Hampshire. Christie pitched means testing and boosting retirement age to 69 on entitlements, clearly hoping being blunt with voters will earn their respect.
I would tell you, politicians who tell you they're going to be able to keep that promise without making any changes are telling you one of two things. Either they're telling you they're going to increase taxes in a way that will break the backs of the middle class in this country, or they're lying to you. One or the other, because the math doesn't work.
And there are signs the GOP field will officially get more crowded, with Ohio Governor John Kasich inching closer. He filed paperwork with the IRS today for a 527 political committee to help his fundraising as Kasich considers a run. Brett?
Mike, thank you. Let's find out what we learned from the Republican weekend in New Hampshire, or maybe what we didn't. Senior political analyst Britt Hume is here again tonight. Good evening, Britt.
Hi, Brett. Anyone hoping the Republican presidential field might be narrowed or even clarified by this weekend's gathering in New Hampshire must be disappointed today. Nobody seemed particularly to stand out, nor did anyone fall into the orchestra pit or commit some other damaging gaffe. The only poll out since the event, as you heard, shows the field still tightly bunched with Jeb Bush in the lead, though he has less than 20% support. This shows two things. For all the time we political junkies have spent talking about this race, it's still very early, and this contest is wide open. One more thing. This is a strong field. There are 7 present or former governors, 5 sitting or former senators, 2 business leaders, a renowned surgeon, and a former UN ambassador. All are younger than Hillary Clinton, and 4 of them are at least 20 years younger. Those 4, by the way, Bobby Jindal, Ted Cruz, Marco Rubio, and Scott Walker, are not the least experienced in the field. Despite their relative youth, all 4 have held government office for years. Republican voters should be in no hurry to see this field narrow. It seems likely that one of these candidates represents the future of the party, not just in 2016, but beyond. Some conservatives seem eager to make up their minds, and my Twitter feed suggests they have already written off some candidates. But with this far to go, they would be wise to keep an open mind. Brett?
I've noticed that Twitter feed, @Britt Hume. Britt, let's turn to Hillary Clinton. This book's coming out, Clinton Cash. I know you haven't read it, but what you've read of it so far, what do you make of this, and how big a potential problem this could be?
Well, obviously we'll need to see the book, but if the book establishes, even chronologically, a connection between gifts to the Clinton Foundation or speaking fees to Bill Clinton and adjustments, shifts, changes in Hillary Clinton's positions or actions as Secretary of State, I think that's problematic for her. I think it will raise questions that she will have to answer and that may prove not easily answered. And that could be one more piece of what you heard Rand Paul describe as baggage that she will have to lug through this primary season. Not an inviting prospect for her.
Okay, Britt, as always, thank you.
Bet.
So who do you think has been most impressive in the Republican field so far, and why? Let me know at facebook.com/BrettBairSR or on Twitter @BrettBair. You can use the hashtag Special Report. Up next, another grisly video of ISIS terrorists murdering Christians. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 45 in Baltimore, where dozens marched from City Hall to police headquarters to protest the death of an African-American man after his spine was nearly severed while in custody. Police filed official documents in court saying 25-year-old Freddie Gray was arrested, quote, without force or incident. The mayor and top police officials are promising accountability. Fox 11 in Los Angeles with the theft of a baby sea lion from an area beach. An expert from Marine Animal Rescue says whoever did it could be in for a nasty surprise. Sea lions have a bite 10 times greater than a pit bull, and stealing them, by the way, is a federal crime. And Fox 8 from New Orleans, the big story there tonight, the 5th anniversary of the BP oil spill in the Gulf. Millions of gallons of crude gushed into that water for 87 days following the explosion and collapse of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig. 11 people died in the blast. BP has been fined $42 billion with a B so far. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.